welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor, and I'm doing something new today. I'm outside, and the reason why I feel a little bit like quiet-voiced and reserved is because my deck outside is it backs to all these other decks. So if anybody's outside on their deck, they would be able to hear me, which is fine. But, it's what I'm going to talk about today is not something I would normally talk about. Yes, I'm putting it on the internet, but my neighbors aren't going to hear it. You know what I mean? But anyway, I don't really know any of my neighbors now. So we're back today, and remember yesterday was a bad day, and remember that I chose to make today a good day. Well, that's exactly what happened. So I had a really great day, and it's not even close to being over yet. So I'll tell you a little bit about my day when I'm done talking about the topic of the day, because as you remember yesterday, I wanted to talk about a day in the life of being a drunk mom. And it's not really going to be a day in the life. I guess that was a little off. I want to give you some examples of things that I experienced when I was a drinking mom. And then I'm going to switch gears and tell you about what it's like to be a sober mom. But the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to tell you about my day. And that's just going to be one great example of how I just love being a sober mom. So here we go. I got sober when my kids were my son just started college, and my daughter was starting her second year of high school. So you can imagine that looking back on all the years that I was drinking and being a mom, I had a lot of regrets that I had to look at. And I'm going to tell you about how I deal with that now. But before I do that, I want to give you some examples of some of those regrets and how I guess we'll do it all together. So I'll give you some examples of what happened and how what my experience was as a drinking mom and how I look at it now. How I try my best to not be regretful, but look at these experiences as opportunities to grow and look at them as really just huge blocks of cement that my sobriety stands on. You know what I mean? Like a lot of not wanting to take another drink is due to not wanting to go back to experience the things that I experienced. And as I'm talking, I'm also making sure that my dogs don't eat the earth. That's what we call it when they start eating sticks and stuff. I'm on my brand new deck, and the virtual background is not the brand new deck, but it's a pretty amazing background. Okay, so one thing that happened, and it was, gosh, years before I actually got sober, was my son. We were trying him at baseball, and it ended up being a terrible experience for him. Unfortunately, he not only is he not a sports guy, but he also had a really terrible baseball coach who was actually a police officer and ran the team as if they were training to be police officers. So it was not a good experience. They did a lot of running instead of really making it a fun sporty thing to introduce to young kids. So that's really unfortunate. But his dad and I were really excited to have him try baseball, you know. So I have several stories about him during the baseball phase of his life, but I wanted to focus this podcast on what it was like for me. That sounds so selfish, but that's what we're doing here, right? We're talking about recovery. So, what I did was I showed up to one of his games. It was like on a Saturday, and I brought my daughter, his little sister, who was still in a car seat back then. And I think she was actually like a baby. She wasn't walking or anything yet. And so I showed up with her and a water bottle full of wine and sat in the stands and watched the game and drank my wine. And I recall at one point, you know, I was having a great time. And I remember at one point looking around at the stands and noticing that nobody was talking. And I thought, huh, have I been acting like a fool? We'll never know the answer to that because I don't remember what I was doing. I imagine, just knowing me, that I was cheering him on, you know, but I could have possibly been a little more vociferous than the other parents, which could have made me stand out and look like, oh, I wonder what's in her glass. I also believe that it's very possible that somebody smelled it, because it was a small set of stands. So, so that is one thing that kind of happened in the environment, but it's on the way home that was really the part that sticks out in my head that makes me not pick up a drink today. And that is that when I was on the way home, I was feeling, you know, there was a party in Rachel's head and she was the only one there. And I decided that I was a race car driver when I was driving home, because the the game was back off of Summit Point Road, which is in Charlestown. And it's a very windy road. And it goes to, if you've ever heard of Summit Point Racetrack, it heads there. And so I decided I was just going to see how fast I could take it. Not fast in my head when I was driving. I wasn't taking it fast as in dangerous. I was taking it fast as in fun. But it was fast as in dangerous because I got to a curve and I was going too fast and the car started to lose control. And I was able to recover, but where if I hadn't had recovered, my car would have hit a very large tree and it would have hit the car right where my daughter was sitting in the car seat. And that did it scare me sober? No, it didn't scare me sober. I was just really happy that that didn't happen. And thought to myself, you probably shouldn't race like a race car driver anymore. You know, it wasn't the alcohol I was blaming. So that is one example that's really scary that stands out in my mind. Another example that includes both kids really is I was after work. So my son was in high school no, he was, let's see. Yeah, he was in high school at this point. He was in several bands because music ended up, not sports, music ended up being his thing. So we went to a gig that he had at a Vietnamese restaurant in Charlestown. It's not there anymore, as far as I know. And so he got to play every, may have been Monday night or something at this Vietnamese restaurant with his buddies. And so I showed up. I was supposed to have not been drinking because I had gone to, no, I had not gone to detox yet, but I had tried to stop drinking. And I think that I was just hiding or something, hiding that I was drinking. So I had wine underneath the seat of my car, those little wine travel boxes that you can get from 7-Eleven. So I had a couple of those, probably more than a couple, under my car seat. And I was drinking that on the way home from work. Um and I wanted to I wanted to leave the gig and go out to my car and like swig some more, but there was no way for me to do that. So anyway, I showed up pretty buzzed, and I was sitting in the audience and just listening and cheering him on, excited, trying to keep to myself really. And the song lyric that I heard said, "Mom's drinking again." And it broke my heart, but it didn't break my heart sober, you know? Um, So that's when I asked my son years later, I think recently actually, I asked him about it, and he said he doesn't recall having a song lyric that said that. But that is definitely what I heard. Seeing that I was drinking, who knows if that's actually what was said, but I heard it and it was sad. It was really sad, and it wasn't sad enough for me to get sober. Um, so switching gears over to Bailey's activities, Bailey played soccer her entire life, from the time she could start running and kicking a ball at the same time she was playing soccer. And she went on to play soccer for college at in Pennsylvania. And there were times where she had a soccer game that was like a travel soccer game, and I didn't go because I wasn't going to be able to drink. I know that's not a very exciting story, but when I look back today and my daughter is grown up and graduated from college, it breaks my heart. It's one of those things uh, that is a regret. And I wonder, like, what is it teaching me today? What is it doing for me today so that it's not a regret? That's my job in sobriety, is to turn these experiences into opportunities to keep me sober, um, and share them with other people so that they can too, um, use my experiences to stay sober. And what I did was I shared it with other moms that have gotten sober since me. It's one of the things that I share frequently, is how you don't want to end up being regretful. You don't want to end up like me, thinking back to experiences that I could have had as a mom, and I chose not to, just because I put the drink first. And it's terrible, that's why it's a disease, because it's something that takes control of our reasoning. We can't make decisions that are for our well-being and for the well-being of others who we love. Um, Bailey has been a very active young girl up into adulthood. She has always been active. And so she was always into something, wanting, not in a bad way, in a good way. She was very good kid, didn't get in trouble. Um, but they had bonfires. Her and her friends had bonfires on Friday nights at one of her friends' house. Um, and I remember saying no to things that she asked me to do. And it was really because I couldn't drink. If I said yes, that meant I had to, in my head, it was do controlled drinking so that I could go pick her up after whatever the event was over. And I think about all those times that I did quote unquote controlled drinking, and went and picked her up. sometimes Tristan, but Bailey was more of the one going to places all the time. And that to think about that is really scary because that leads me back to that baseball game that I went to and did some speed racing driving. And it's scary. Drinking and driving, scary stuff. Um, and then here's kind of a funny story. When I think back, it makes me feel like embarrassed. Every year I would buy a new baby pool for my kids, quote unquote. What happened when the kids would go to their dad's house? Mom, or when the kids maybe not go to their dad's house because they were younger at that point. So, I don't know. I guess we were still married at that time and after we were married. I think this happened for many years. I would buy the pools. The kids would go to their friend's house, and who was out in the pool in her bikini drinking her wine in the backyard? We didn't have a fence. It's not like anybody, it's not like I was hidden from the neighbors, you know? There's that lady laying in the baby pool in her bikini with her wine in the afternoon. I mean, that's embarrassing. I just wonder what my neighbors think. It's not like I was hanging out there with anyone. It was just me. So I kind of, I wish somebody would have said, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't be doing that," or something like that. But I would have been like, "Screw you," you know. But it wouldn't have been so. It would have been a little more colorful language. Um, I think back to a really nice memory when I was drinking, and I just have a couple more examples. I I think back to a Christmas. We were we were decorating for Christmas. So this was their dad and I were divorced. So we had put up the Christmas tree. It was an evening and we had on Christmas music and I was drinking my wine because I was always drinking my wine. And we had to get the angel or star, whichever it was, it was usually an angel on top of the tree. And what we ended up doing was Bailey got on top of Tristan's shoulders and he lifted her up to put the angel on top of the tree. And I recorded it. And I don't know where that recording is. I must still have it somewhere. Um, and you can tell in the recording, you can hear my voice that I was very much heavily buzzed. And when I think back to that, like it's a funny memory. Like they were both laughing. We were all laughing. But I think back to how much fun it would have been if I wasn't drinking. And I can only say that now because I know what it's like. I know the additional layer of presence that occurs when I don't have that numbing feeling of alcohol. So that's one of those things that I don't regret that it happened. I regret that I wasn't sober when it happened. Another example similar to that is my entire family went on a cruise with my mom. And it was just an amazing opportunity to spend a whole week like isolated with my family, and just spending time with each other. And we stopped at all these different places and you could get off the ship and enjoy these different spots. And what I did was I sat at the pool on the pool deck and I drank. And that is about all I remember. There's a few times I remember going to get the kids from the kids club, which they really loved, the kids club. And I remember um going to like it was like a disco or some kind of dance club, and it was still like a kids club type thing, but I remember not wanting to do those things. I wanted to get back to my drinking. I remember every time I was doing something other than sitting by the pool with my drink, I wanted to be sitting by the pool with my drink, and that breaks my heart because I'm not going to have my family forever. We're never going to be all that age at the same time ever again. And I could have really um, added some incredible memories into my life had I not been drinking during that time. And I can't go back and fix it, obviously, but I'm leading into what I do now, really. Um, when I'm with my family, I am so present. Uh, when my brother came to visit me, uh, gosh, I guess it was before COVID when we first moved into this house. So it was about 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago. When he walked in the door, I broke down crying. I had so much love for him and missed him so incredibly much as a sober sister that I broke down crying when I hugged him, like ugly cry. And he was so surprised. It brought tears to his eyes, he said. And he was like, he said he's never been welcomed so warmly in his life. He's never had that kind of a reaction from somebody. But that is what it's like to be present and sober around my family. I have a little bit of regret because we went on so many family vacations and I missed that. I missed being present with them. Um, but I can be present today, and that's what I have. I have that today. And I think part of the reason why it brings tears to my eyes is because I have so much love for those times. Like we went on a family vacation to Sandbridge. This was the last family vacation that I've been able to take. It was post-stroke, but it was prior to when my health declined a little over a year ago. And I was present, and I got to go on a bike ride with my brother, and I got to go on a walk with my sister, and we all got to play in the pool together. And I got to hang out with my niece and lay out in the sun. And I mean, I can give so many examples of what I got to do. I got to go kayaking with my niece and nephew, like with my son and my daughter. That's what life is about. That's what building memories is about. And I can only do that sober. So I choose to not inhibit my ability to make those kinds of memories today because it is just there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it in the world, being present for and with family. So I had one more example, but I feel like that's really a nice way to close. Um, looking at these memories and looking back and being regretful, but letting go of that regret and looking at it as a lesson and looking at it as an opportunity to make things right today. And I am just elated that I have each day I get to have that opportunity to build new memories and make new great things happen in my life and be present and able and willing to help others create memories for them that they're going to be able to bring forward to the other people in their lives, my son and my daughter. Um, so this is what I did today. We're going to wrap it up with this. This is what it's like to be a sober mom. I made a adopt a ghost. Okay, so I decided I was going to send my kids a care package for Halloween. Plus, I needed to send my daughter a sock that she left in her bedroom when she came to visit. It dropped, I guess, out of her bag or something like that. So I cleaned it and needed to send her a sock. I needed to send her her renewed registration for her car. And I decided I really want to do something crafty, but it needs to be quick because it's October 22nd. So what can I do? So, I did some research and got an idea and then went on to Etsy and Pinterest to see, has somebody already done this before? Because why, try to remake the wheel? So I found it on Etsy, and mine looks a little different than they did on Etsy, but it's adorable. So I took a jar. One of the jars is like a Tropicana jar, and one of them is a maple syrup jar. And it's cuter if the hole in the jar is smaller than the jar because it looks almost like, oh, how'd she get it in there? But I took this, a piece of some chunky yarn from a blanket that my beloved Autumn, the Weimaraner, chewed up. And I rolled the top of it and then frayed the bottom of it, tied a string around the neck, put two drops of black acrylic paint for eyes, and it's a ghost. And it's squishy, okay? It's white. And I tied a string to the neck of it so that I could lower it down into the jar. I squeezed it in there with a Q-tip, and then I put a orange fabric top on it, and it's secured with a black hair rubber thing, and put a little tag on it, and it says adopt a ghost. My name is, and it has a blank. So I know it's freaking adorable, and I'm gonna post it along with this podcast episode on Facebook and Instagram, wherever it is that you find out about the podcast. So that's going to be their care package. So I'm putting that in the mail tomorrow. Super cute. And that's what I get to do as a sober mom. I get to come up with ideas. I get to be present for my kids, even when they're not here anymore. They're independent adults now, and they're out living their lives. They've got their jobs. They still come to me and ask questions. My son came to me and asked me a question about finances. My daughter's been asking me questions about finances. They're coming to me because they trust me, because they believe that I can offer them solutions, that I am here for them, and that I love them, and I'm going to do whatever I can for them. And I get to do bonus stuff like make a ghost in a bottle. So I'm really excited about it. And right now I'm making dinner. So I'm simmering some beans from scratch, and I'm going to be I'm no longer vegan now, even though that's the case. I'm making vegan meatballs and beans with a tomato sauce for dinner tonight. So that's what I do now that I'm sober. And thanks for joining me today. I have mosquito bites on my ankles now because I was sitting outside. I thought the mosquitoes were gone. But it is 80 something degrees outside and I'm getting bit. So I'm going to go inside. But thanks for joining me today, and I will talk to you tomorrow.